The harsh fluorescent light bounced off battered tables, painting the church hall in a faint blue glare. Everything smelled of tea leaves and wax floors. Aunt Eileen sat nearest the urn, peering at her knitting, long grey hair coiled around her neck like a question that never got answered. Everyone else arranged themselves in semicircles: cousins, neighbours, people who nodded at me on the morning bus and never spoke a word past that. My mum stood at the edge, pressing her palms together so tightly her knuckles shone. The priest, Father Kelly, was at the lectern also. He'd insisted this was community time, but his gaze felt anything but welcoming as he looked toward me. "Let's keep things frank, shall we?" he said, the words floating almost gently over the room, even as their meaning sharpened. I sat in the center, metal folding chair betraying every restless twitch of my long legs. My thin blue notebook, the one I'd carted everywhere since school, filled with messy equations and diagrams, was balanced on my thighs. It might as well have been a bomb, Aunt Eileen sniffed. "Let's just say it, all this, fiddling with machines and God knows what, it's not right, Siobhan, it's not Christian." She stared around for nods and got plenty. "Tinkering. Where's the sense in it? You might as well pray to electrons for all the good it'll do." A ripple of unease moved through the little crowd. Uncle Des, slick with supermarket cologne, leaned forward. "Ought to get yourself a real job, love. Something in finance or law, something with a suit." I felt each word shrinking the space in my chest, urging me to fold in on myself. My mother stared at the floor. My father had ducked out the back, his disappointment a ghost haunting the kitchen. My heart pounded in my throat, but I pressed my palms hard against my knees, letting the pain steady me. "I'm not hurting anyone," I said, quieter than I wanted. I want to understand how things work. I want to use science to make things better, maybe save lives." I listened to her. Someone jeered from the back, bitter laughter splintering my conviction. "Our own Marie Curie, tell us, what's the point of poking at rats and fiddling with computers in your wee room?" I could have bolted then. My cheeks burned, shame prickled from the roots of my scalp to my wrists. The notebook felt heavier. But I stayed. Something stubborn, angry, and brave had sparked in me since childhood. "I just want a chance," I managed, "just to try." Father Kelly cleared his throat. "You have to remember, dreams aren't always meant for everyone. Some roads aren't traveled for a reason." That night walking home, my trainers scraping cracked paving stones, I cried until black mascara ran all the way to my collar. Mum touched my back as I fumbled for keys. "You know they mean well," she said, voice small. "I wish they'd just let me try," I whispered. London felt like salvation and damnation in equal measure. At university, no one cared who I'd been. I bought ramen in plastic bowls and sat reading biochemical journals in cramped corners. The labs smelled of isopropyl and burnt toast. People wore holy jumpers and spoke of dreams like they were real, solid, and worthy. But the world didn't applaud, not yet. Grants denied, mentors lost, experiments ruined by a single missed decimal. There was a time after graduation when I slept in a room above a betting shop, working as a teaching assistant, stirring coffee with borrowed change, scavenging textbooks outside Waterstones when the binmen weren't looking. Rejection letters stacked in single, merciless sentences, not innovative, too optimistic, insufficient evidence moved to bin. Still, my notebook grew, paper corners soft, edges fuzzy with wear. I filled page after page with gene circuits and protein folding pathways. At night, I would recite problems in the dark, calculating until sleep took me. Eventually, in a lab bathed in the creamy light of 24-hour fluorescence, I found a mentor. Dr. Crane, an American with a northern accent and a fondness for odd socks. I showed her my battered blue notebook, expecting her to laugh. Instead, she said, this is interesting. What if you tweak this pathway here?" We worked late into the evenings, the two of us, reconstructing neural networks in Petri dishes, mapping bacterial chassis with dizzying precision, trying to teach artificial cells to understand host pathogen imbalances. Failure after failure, but the failures taught me something new. Eventually, prototypes survived longer, adapted, learned. It wasn't just theory anymore. Still, even as our results crescendoed into publishable data, self-doubt chewed at me. The voices from that church hall sometimes drowned out the hum of the bioreactors. "That's enough now, Siobhan, you're only embarrassing yourself." Then, one October, the breakthrough. My system, coded into bacterial DNA, learned to detect a telltale protein produced by early-stage leukemia. It flagged it, lit up in a green shimmer under UV, clear as the Thames at sunrise. We tested again and again. Finally, in vivo, mice first, then with cautious, trembling optimism, the first human sample, it worked, we published. The Nature editors wrote wary but excited notes, news outlets picked it up. Irish gal's invention may revolutionize early cancer detection, screamed The Independent. There were interviews on Radio 4, strange mornings spent preening clothes in green rooms, my voice trembling through microphones. The world suddenly wanted me. I learned to speak both in lay terms and technical jargon. I learned to smile without showing the haunted child within. But success, once it bloomed, didn't leave much time for nostalgia. I saw my parents at Christmas. My father nodded and pressed a check into my palm, trying to buy back the years he'd been silent. Proud, he managed, voice croaky. My mother hugged me with trembling arms. But I never returned to the old church. Not after the public shaming, not after the first paper, not even for weddings. Not until a letter, an actual envelope, heavy with official seals, arrived at my new flat. We are honoured to present Dr. Siobhan McDermott with the Royal Society's Early Career Award for Excellence. The ceremony would be in London, of course, but the church in my hometown wanted to host a recognition event. They wanted to celebrate me. For a week, I let the letter rest on my desk. Shame still pulsed beneath my achievements, refusing to let me forget the ache of their dismissal. I could say no, continue at a distance, let the memory sour quietly. Instead, I said yes. The morning I returned, I wore a plain navy suit and cleaned old trainers, keeping my curls tied back with a nervous hand. The train from Euston clipped through the suburbs, fields and stations blurring past. I saw my own reflection in the window, older and sharper than before, eyes hollowed but steady. The town hadn't changed. Same chip shop, same broken bus stop. The church loomed as it always had, bunting limp under the grey sky. Inside, the scent of wax and tea felt like an ambush. A bigger crowd, more novelty faces, the mayor in his sash, a photographer from the county paper, kids with smartphones. My mum wore her best brooch, nervously fussing with the register. My father balanced near the exit, tense as a rabbit before the fox. I stood at the hall's entrance as people shuffled for seats, hands knotted. When Father Kelly stepped to the lectern, his voice boomed. Today, we welcome our own Dr. Siobhan McDermott, who has brought pride to our town and hope to the world. Aunt Eileen elbowed closer. Her eyes flickered over my suit and the lanyard badge with visiting fellow stamped in gold. I caught a flash of that old contempt. There were speeches, the mayor grinned, my old headmistress recited lines about tenacity, someone clapped at the wrong moment. I listened, half outside myself, eyes wandering the chipped paint on the walls I'd once watched flake off in mindless boredom. Then they called me up, microphone black and slick in my hands, my throat closed, the first words tasted of past humiliation. I want to thank everyone, my voice scrambled, cracking. I steadied myself, searching for courage I'd forged in the years since. I know when I first started, what I wanted to do looked impossible, or maybe to some of you it looked silly. A ripple suppressed laughter, a cough. Uncle Des shifted. I turned, pulling from my bag a plastic white box, a prototype marked with paper stickers and warning tape. This, I said, holding it aloft, is part of my life's work. It's a biosensor. Something we made to help people catch leukemia early before it turns tragic. I glanced at the mayor, he gave an encouraging nod. I was mocked for having wild dreams, I said plainly. But I stand here with something solid, something real, built with a stubborn heart and science. I opened the box, revealing vials, a slide. With this, we save lives. My friend, her daughter is healthy today because we detected her illness months before anyone else could. There are labs worldwide testing it now. It isn't the cure, but it's a chance. A silence hung, larger than the shame ever was. Aunt Eileen drew closer, peering into the box with trembling hands. That wee thing. I nodded, that wee things. Father Kelly stepped down, old eyes searching my face. So it's true. From our town, someone's made something that changes the world. I nodded again, feeling a lump build near my windpipe. My mother brought out a tissue. My father, uncharacteristically, clapped. Soon the room filled with applause, hesitant at first, then taking on a hunger, a swelling pride that felt both welcome and alien. As the applause faded, an old man approached. Mr. Lenihan, my childhood science teacher who had always eyed my exam scores with cautious hope. Siobhan, you did us proud, he murmured, voice crackling with emotion. You didn't give up when things got ugly. Not giving up's the only thing that matters, I said, my palms shook. Honestly, I almost did so many times. He smiled, watery-eyed. But you didn't. For the rest of the evening, people pressed in with questions, grandchildren tugging at my sleeve, parents fretting about distant families' health. They asked nervous, genuine questions, and I explained in gentle words how bacteria could learn, how genes could be programmed kindly. I let children peer at the device, showing them the green gleam under the lamp. Later, while my mother and I stood in the kitchen amidst half-washed mugs and leftover sandwiches, she touched my arm. "You were so brave up there," she murmured, teary. "I'm sorry, Siobhan, we were just scared for you, afraid you'd get hurt, afraid you'd drift away." "I know," I said. "I was scared too." The next morning, before my train, I walked the town alone, feeling the cobbled lanes and painted doors with new eyes. There was pride swelling inside me, not the cheap kind born in headlines, but the slow, earned pride of having rebuilt something inside myself that others once tried to shatter. When I boarded the train back to London, prototype box cradled in my lap, I met my own reflection again in the carriage window. My face looked tired but peaceful, someone acquainted with shame, more than acquainted with courage. Someone who, against every scornful laugh and lowered gaze, had found her own way home.